the world of cinema, some names don't just belong to history. They define it. Al Pacino is one of them. A man whose voice could shake silence, whose eyes could pierce through truth, whose pauses carried more power than words. He wasn't born into fame. He built it moment by moment, role by role, through stubborn grit and relentless hunger. His story isn't about luxury or stardom. It's about endurance, obsession, and the price of greatness. Pacino transformed pain into poetry, rage into grace. He didn't just act, he lived through every role. This is the story of a man who never stopped searching for meaning in the chaos. This is Al Pacino, The Fire Within. Part 1. The Bronx begins. Born in 1940 in East Harlem and raised in the Bronx, Al Pacino grew up in a neighborhood full of noise, grit, and dreams too big for the streets that held them. He was the only child of working-class parents, raised mostly by his mother after his father left. Money was scarce, but imagination was endless. He found refuge in movie theaters, mesmerized by actors who lived other lives. At school, he was restless, distracted, a boy who couldn't sit still because his mind was already somewhere else. At 14, he dropped out, chasing that spark of performance wherever it might lead. He joined small acting groups in New York, performing in basements and cafes. For the first time, he felt seen, alive, understood. It wasn't fame he wanted, it was belonging, and from that moment, the path was set. Part 2. The stage becomes a battlefield. Theater became Pacino's sanctuary and his proving ground. He studied at the Actors Studio under Lee Strasberg, the temple of method acting. There, he learned that acting wasn't pretending, it was becoming. He lived in cheap apartments, skipping meals to pay for acting classes. He rehearsed for hours, obsessed with finding truth in every line. The stage became a battlefield where he fought not for applause, but for honesty. Then came The Indian Wants the Bronx in 1968, a play that changed everything. His raw performance won him awards, critics' attention, and the eye of producer Martin Bregman. In Pacino, they saw danger, quiet, unpredictable energy that could explode at any moment. Hollywood was about to notice the storm forming in New York. Part 3. The Godfather rises. The Godfather, the film that would rewrite cinema and Pacino's destiny. Francis Ford Coppola fought to cast him as Michael Corleone. Studio executives said no. Too small, too unknown. But Coppola saw what they couldn't. Power behind restraint, danger behind calm. On set, Pacino was nervous, surrounded by legends, Brando, Caan, Duvall. But once the camera rolled, something transformed. His silence spoke louder than any dialogue. Every look, every pause carried weight. When Michael closed that door at the end of the film, Pacino's fate was sealed. He earned an Oscar nomination and a reputation as the face of a new acting era. Internal, intense, and devastatingly human. Then came Serpico, the story of a cop fighting corruption, played with such conviction that audiences believed every frame. By the mid-1970s, Al Pacino wasn't a rising star. He was a revolution. Part 4. Heat of the 70s. The 1970s became Pacino's golden age, a decade of fire, fear, and transformation. Films like Dog Day Afternoon and Justice for All and The Panic in Needle Park captured America's frustration and disillusionment. Pacino embodied that spirit, defiant, flawed, human. He turned vulnerability into strength, rebellion into truth. His characters weren't heroes or villains. They were real people standing on the edge. Every role pushed him further into emotional chaos, and audiences followed. He didn't act pain, he channeled it. By the end of the decade, Pacino wasn't just performing in films, he was defining what it meant to feel on screen. The 70s belonged to him completely. Part 5. The 80s, Descent and Resurrection. The 1980s began uncertainly. After a series of mixed reactions and box office disappointments, Pacino stepped away from the spotlight. But out of doubt came rebirth. In 1983, he returned with Scarface, a role that redefined him forever. As Tony Montana, he became excess personified, violent, hungry, magnetic. Critics were divided, but audiences were hypnotized. Over time, Scarface became a cultural monument, ambition's darkest mirror. Pacino poured every ounce of himself into it, capturing the madness and beauty of power. When the dust settled, he wasn't just back, he was untouchable. After Scarface, he returned to theater, seeking grounding, balance, and artistic truth. He had found his rhythm again, and the world was listening. Part 6. The 90s. Master of the Craft. The 1990s crowned Pacino as a living legend. He balanced explosive performances with restraint, showing the full spectrum of his craft. In Dick Tracy, he disappeared beneath makeup and madness, earning another Oscar nomination. In Glengarry Glen Ross, he turned greed and despair into poetry. Then came The Godfather Part 3, older, haunted, a Michael Corleone shaped by guilt. In 1992, Scent of a Woman brought him his long-awaited Oscar. His portrayal of Colonel Frank Slade, arrogant, wounded, fiercely alive, became unforgettable. And then Heat, Pacino and De Niro, two forces finally colliding. Their diner scene remains legendary: calm tension, respect, inevitability. By the mid-90s, Pacino wasn't chasing greatness, he had become it. Part 7. Later Years, New Depths. As the 2000s arrived, Pacino evolved instead of slowing down. He explored aging, regret, and resilience with a quiet, burning intensity. In Insomnia, The Recruit, and People I Know, he portrayed men broken yet unyielding. He leaned into stillness, finding power in reflection. He returned to Shakespeare, The Merchant of Venice, looking for Richard, revealing the philosopher behind the actor. Television opened new doors. Angels in America, You Don't Know Jack. Both award-winning, both intimate. Even in smaller projects, Pacino's craft never dimmed. Every glance, every breath carried purpose. He wasn't acting anymore. He was passing the torch, showing what truth on camera really meant. Part 8. The Legacy of Fire. Even today, Al Pacino remains unstoppable. In The Irishman, he reunited with Scorsese and De Niro, delivering a performance full of charisma and sorrow, a portrait of power, fading with dignity. In House of Gucci, he mixed humor and grace, proving that the spark still burned bright. Off-screen, he's become a living myth, soft-spoken, curious, endlessly humble. Actors study his cadence, his silences, his fearlessness, because Pacino doesn't just act, he reveals. He once said, "I'm just getting started." Maybe he meant it, because his fire hasn't dimmed, it's evolved, glowing quieter, deeper, wiser. The legend still grows. Al Pacino's life isn't a story of fame, it's a story of devotion. From the boy in the Bronx to the master of the screen, he gave everything to art, time, soul, even sanity. He taught generations that true acting isn't imitation, it's revelation. That emotion, when honest, can outlive time itself. His voice, his stillness, his truth. They changed cinema's language forever. And long after the final curtain falls, one thing will remain certain. The fire within Al Pacino will never go out. This has been Bio Vault. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this journey, remember to like, share, and subscribe for more stories of the icons who shaped our world.